anywhere at any time, right? Let's go to the talk, right? So we are now, sir, some of the biosensors has been commercially available. Like for example, you can take an example of a glucose sensor. That's one of the biosensor. So it is becoming an important part of our everyday life, right? Without that, now it's so current technology advances, the self-monitoring of our health parameter is possible at home. But
ഡിസ്കണ്ട് ചെയ്യല്ല ഡിസ്കണ്ട് ചെയ്യണ്ട എന്തിനാ
I'm here.
അമ്മയുടെ പോയി അമ്മ
Can the administrator unmute
വേണ്ടേ
me, please? Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Right. Okay. So, with the help of recent advancements in the technology, health monitoring at home is possible, right? But though there are some of the technology on biosensor is started to come, how close we are in taking all the sensors into the market or into the clinical applications. So, let's find out in this talk, right? So, first I will go brief into this talk. I would like to mention some of the important biosensor products available in the market and their applications, right? So the one on the right hand side, fitness sensor, probably we all have here. This is used for monitoring our heartbeat and how many steps we have walked and the calories we burned on every day. So this is the simplest physiological monitoring sensor available in the market. And the next one is continuous glucose monitoring. I'll be talking about this later in this slide, but I'll just brief. This is a continuously, this device continuously monitors your glucose in your body when if it is implanted, right? And it also attached with some insulin pump. So based on your glucose fluctuation in your body, it induces the insulin secretion through the pump. And this is one of the complicated sensors available because it monitors the biochemical marker. So the other one here is a Polo Tech shirt. So the sensors are attached in the shirt. It will monitor heart rate, pulse rate, and your sweat markers through the sensors attached in the shirt, right? This is the shirt company Polo. They have developed these sensors. And similarly, there are sensors are available for fetus heartbeat monitoring, right? Whether the baby inside the womb is healthy and how the heartbeat are functioning and all that you can monitor through this particular biosensors developed by Nuvo. And this another sensor, interesting sensor, is a smart sock that developed by a company called Owlet. So what does it do is, without irritating or without disturbing the baby, it will monitor its heartbeat and the oxygen saturation throughout the night, right? So this is one of the very important sensors for monitoring baby health and this movement. And similarly, there are other sensors developed by Biostam, the company MC10. So this is a flexible tattoo kind of things. It will also monitor your essential health parameters on your body. So this is another interesting thing for monitoring the baby health.
Pandyraj, unmute your mic. Sir, Pandyraj, sir, unmute.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank
okay,
you,
okay.
sir. Thank you. So, so this is one of the important sensor that will monitor the baby's urine levels, whether it is how much salt is there and is it properly hydrated or it's dehydrated, and is there any bacterial infection in the urine, it can monitor. So these are the some of the important sensors commercially available in the market. So human body will give a lot of parameters or the signals, like the biochemical reactions happening inside the human body can be tracked in different signals. Like it can be invasive, or invasive means like you have to prick some sensor into your body, and the non-invasive without disturbing your skins, right? So for invasive applications, you can monitor the nervous systems, the brain applications, cardiovascular system, that means your heartbeat and oxygen saturation and blood glucose, and digestive systems and your muscle movement and all. So for this you can use the invasive applications or invasive biosensors. And for non-invasive biosensors, the simple biochemical biophysical markers, like or if you consider the biophysical ECG, EOG, so electrical encephalogram, electrocardiogram, electrical cardiogram, and electromyogram. So these are the biosignals that we can monitor in our body. So similarly, there are chemicals, biochemicals, we call it as a biomarkers, that is also generated in the human body as a result of this biological functions. This also can be tracked. So one important things that we have to understand here is the difference between physiological, physiochemical markers as well as biochemical markers, right? It is easy to, or it is simple to monitor the biophysical parameters like ECG, EEG, EMG, and your body temperature and the heart rate. It's relatively easy to monitor these parameters, right? Based on your skin wearable sensor. But monitoring biochemical markers is important. It's relatively challenging because it released in your bloodstream or in your biological fluid. So there are different biological fluids I listed here. So when a biochemical reaction happening in your body, these biochemicals are dissipated or generated or released into these biofluids. For example, breath or blood, interstitial fluids, saliva, sweat, tear, and even wound fluids. So we have to monitor this biochemicals in any of these fluids. So that's the reason the biochemical monitoring is a bit challenged when compared to the biophysical monitoring. So, right. Why the development of portable sensors is very important, right? So let's look at the current available. Okay, if you want to monitor any biochemical in your blood, these are the techniques most commonly used in the clinical laboratories. So it needs a huge equipment and it needs a trained personnel to conduct that experiment, and that also needs a lot of expensive reagents and chemicals. And moreover, after collecting the samples, you have to store it in a particular refrigerated environment, and you have to ship the sample carefully. And most importantly, you have to wait at least 2 to 4 days or more than a week to get the results, right? So that's a bit challenging because you want to get the results immediately. So the biosensor is becoming important here because it can provide instant results and for useful for early diagnosis. So, so we have seen like why development of biosensors is important. Now we will see what is a biosensor and what is a biosensor device. So biosensor is analytical devices that provides a selective and a specific measurement of biochemical markers, right? And it is it mainly consists of 4 different parts, right? And the main important components are these two. One is a bioreceptor and this is a transducer. The bioreceptor is a biological molecule which selectively captures the biochemical in your biofluids, right? And once the bioreceptor captures this analyte, that signal, the binding event, can be converted into measurable signals. That's where the transducer is playing important role. So the biosensors can be classified based on the bioreceptors used as well as based on the transducer used. So based on the bioreceptors, it can be used enzymatic biosensor, antibody-based biosensor, DNA, and even microorganisms can be used for biosensing applications. And when you look at in the transducers, this binding events can be converted into electrochemical signals or optical signals or piezoelectric or some thermal signals. So among these, electrochemical sensors are gaining recent recent interest due to their practicality, sensitivity, and they are very accurate and they can be converted in a low-cost platforms. So among all these type of sensors, we are focusing here at SICRI and in our research is focusing on developing electrochemical sensors for healthcare monitoring, right? So based on the applications in healthcare monitoring, the electrochemical sensors are classified into three major categories. One is point of care sensors, and then wearable electrochemical sensors, and then implantable sensors. We are going to see each of these types one by one, right? First we'll see point of care sensors. What is a point of care sensors? So the point of care sensors defined as performing medical diagnostics as near the patient site, right? So without using any expensive and complicated equipment. So it should not involve any skilled technicians or expensive equipment, and you should not take much time to process and analyze the results. So these are the some of the sensor that is clinically used in the current clinical laboratories for point of care sensor applications. One is the iStat. This is used for your cardiac marker detection. And when you go to the laboratory now, they are performing this urine dipstick measurement. It will give a lot of parameters like pH, what is the pH of your urine, protein, and other biochemicals in your urine samples. Right? This is used for blood analysis, and this is for urine. So similarly, we have a lactate sensor as well as this glucometer that used for diabetes monitoring. These are like commercially available point of care sensors, right? So you don't need to use any expensive equipment. You just take a sample and you measure it and you get the instant result. So this is the examples of point of care sensors. So here I'll be just explaining what we have developed recently or in our collaborative research for point of care sensors. And look at in the right hand side initially, this is the point of care sensors that has been used in 2014 during the Ebola outbreak. So without knowing what is the cause for that particular disease, the people got sick and the clinicians, they want to monitor their blood profiles. So these are the point of care sensor which can provide a lot of analysis, like it can provide your lipid profiles, or your cardiac markers, or your lung profile. So this is just take a drop of blood and you dispense it in this platform, and you insert in this particular device, and it will give a results in 15 minutes. So inspired by this, we have developed some kind of sensors for Zika virus. So Zika is spread by the mosquitoes. It results in the brain development and neurological outcomes of newborn babies, right? So what we have done, we have created interdigited electrodes or miniaturized electrode, and we have used antibodies here as a recognition element, and we have used these sensors for different types of Zika concentration to get the linear curve, and this sensor has been integrated with the Bluetooth for wireless transmission of the results, right? And next we have recently we have developed a sensor for cancer biomarker in human blood, because cancer is one of the leading disease causing a lot of morbidity. So there are a lot of types of cancers are there, like starting from ovarian cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer, everything. So we have attempted sensors for monitoring ovarian cancer. So we have used the magnetic bead based sensors here. So that why we need to use the magnetic bead here? Like let's say if you want to monitor any particular protein or any particular analyte in your blood, apart from that particular target, you will have other contaminating proteins or red blood cells or non-allied proteins will be there in your blood. So you want to capture that particular target from the blood sample. So we have used magnetic beads to capture that particular biomarker from the blood, and we used it in the sensor platform to detect the cancer biomarker. We have used electrochemical approaches, and this technique can be integrated in a multiplexed platform. So let's say instead of detecting one particular biomarker, you can detect 3 to 4 biomarkers, which will improve the detection specificity. Let's say it will increase the accuracy of the detection. Right? Similarly, the leading researchers in this area, they have developed a multi-array which can detect up to 8 biomarkers in a simple blood drop, right? And as I mentioned, this multiplexed both 3 to 4 or even 8 will be used to improve the detection accuracy. And apart from that, so these sensors, the sensor we have developed earlier, it is based on biological recognition element, which has its own limitation, because they need to be stored in a particular temperature to avoid the sensor drift. So we wanted to use some reusable sensor which can be created on a polymeric matrix, so that will be useful for long-term stable applications, right? So we have used here as a electrochemical polymerization method to produce a molecular imprinted polymers. This molecular imprinted polymers will have similar binding affinity towards these antibodies, right? And even this miniaturized multiplex electrode can be used for detecting such a response. And electrochemical measurement with respect to different concentration can be used for sensor calibrations. And once developed, these sensors can be integrated with a portable unit, right? You see that this is a portable sensor that we have developed, and it can be attached in a portable unit, which will provide or which will give the results in a wireless manner. Like the results can be wirelessly transferred to your computer or mobile phone for the next processing. And we have used low power chip so that even a small battery supply can be used for powering this device. In the recent years, using our normal phone can be possible for biosensing application. Some researchers they have modified slightly our phone to configure it with connection with some smart electronics. So once you do that, it can be used for detection of multiple anomalies. Let's say in the previous slides we have seen you can put like a 3 to 4 electrodes or even 8 electrodes. The same concept when integrated with your mobile phones can be used for multiplexed detection. So it can be this particular application was shown to monitor glucose, heavy metals, sodium, and some malarial antigens in your blood. So similar to that, even paper, like normal paper, like filter papers or even photo papers, they can be converted into electrochemical sensor using some suitable approaches. You can use inkjet printing or screen printing to convert this paper into a portable sensor. And we have now commercially available like a handheld reader units. So you can integrate these paper strips with this unit for instant reading with the low cost applications. So now we'll change it to wearable electrochemical biosensors, right? Initially we have seen what is the point of care applications or biosensor for point of applications. So why we need wearable electrochemical sensor, or how it is advantageous when compared to the point of care sensors, right? So when you use the point of care sensors, it will provide a measurement in particular time. Let's say if you want to monitor glucose levels in hourly basis, like every 2 hours, every 3 hours, only then that will be useful. But if you want to monitor your glucose level continuously when a critically ill patient is is on the bedside. If he wants to monitor his glucose level continuously, and then the wearable sensor is becoming an important tool here. And because the wearable sensors are always being constant contact with the wearer's body. Let's say it can be in a shirt form or it can be in your watch form. So it will always in a constant contact. So you don't need to worry about taking the samples and analyze it. Right? And there is a mismatch between flexibility. Let's say our skin is more flexible and the sensors are rigid. So we have to consider some kind of engineering designs to convert or to attach this rigid electrode to the flexible skins, right? And so instead, I mean, by the challenges, engineers have developed some kind of devices, bracelets, watches, and earphones, cloth-based biosensors for monitoring biochemical markers. But based on the types or based on the materials has been used in wearable sensors, this particular types of sensor can be classified into two types. One is textiles or fabric-based biosensors. The second one is flexible polymeric materials for wearable application. So these are the two important criteria in the wearable sensors. Let's see one by one. And here this is a global healthcare wearable devices at a glance. Like, let's say if you ask a person or anybody who wants to monitor, who wants to wear wearable sensors, and he definitely asks what health information that will provide, right? And which monitoring device you should wear and how much it should cost, right? Because if it's very expensive, the consumers or the users will not buy it. So these are the things that we have to consider. And based on these questions, the wearable sensors can be made into different formats. Like it can be a handheld device where you can carry it in your hand, or it can be a strap, or it can be attached in your shirt, or it can be in shoes, in glass, or your headband, or what, like all the places it can be attached, right? So similar to that, you ask what information it will provide. The wearable sensor, what are the information it can monitor, right? Mostly the biophysical monitors. What's your weight, your blood sugar, and this is a biochemical monitoring, of course. Your blood pressure, how much calories you burned, right? These are the things. And even most of now the current concern is they want to monitor their sleep pattern. The sleep pattern is very important in the recent years, and for this, in the 2017, the year 2017, a Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine has been awarded for monitoring this circadian rhythm, how your sleep patterns or daylight changes affect your brain activities and all your biophysical parameters in your body. So sleep pattern monitoring is very, very important in wearable monitors. And of course the cost should be very, very less when compared, when if it is very like around $100, it is like around 6,500, people can go, or people can afford it. If it is going more than that, people are not interested. So we have to consider these factors when we develop our wearable sensors, and it should be a low cost, of course, right? And we have to consider all these criteria and parameters. Right, and based on the application or based on how it is attached in your body, these wearable sensors can be classified into three types. On-body sensors, so it is attached on your bodies like a tattoo, how we put out a tattoo, and contact lens or skin patch. It can be in a clothes format like a shirt or gloves or some other format of clothes and textiles, and accessories like what are the things that we wear, wristwatch, belt, mouth guard, armband. So based on how it is integrated in your body. So this is the classifications. So the wearable sensors play a very important role in athlete training response, because these athletes, they don't want any interruption during the sports, and blood sampling or saliva monitoring, it is difficult to get the samples and analyze it. So they want to use some kind of wearable sensor that can monitor their training, and also how it will be useful for their progress, and to avoid some negative health outcomes. Let's say if he doing intense exercise, he might hurt himself. So some of the sensors currently available, like this is one is a BSX Insight, is a sensor developed for lactate monitoring. When you do a intense exercise, it will monitor your lactate level, and it is attached in your body, so it will give a results in your mobile phone or in your computer wirelessly. So this is this one diagram is, I mean, this image depicts that how a particular sports person is trained. This is the glass he is wearing is a partially visible glasses, so we will not have a full visibility. So that's how they train it. So when they train it, their stress level and their intense level of exercise, everything goes up. So they need some wearable sensor to properly assess their health parameters. So these are the some.
Sir, it's muted, sir. Please, sir. Sir Pandya sir, unmute.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So this is one of the sensor that is attached in saliva monitoring, that is attached to the mouth guard, right? And similarly, it can attach with the tattoo kind of things for your sweat analyte. So even these sensors can be attached in your clothing, like armband or your shirt, for sweat analyte measurement. And recently, Google came up with some tier-based sensor, that is a very miniaturized sensors for monitoring biomarkers or biochemical levels in your tier. So these are the examples of wearable biosensors that is in the research outcome.
Sir, one doubt. Sir,
Yes.
sir, tier-based sensor is once use or for many
Sorry?
times use? Tier-based sensor, the Google has provided. You told no.
So this is for if I'm right, this is for 1 week period of wear on your eye, and you have to replace the sensors. It can continuously monitor. I mean, now they have stopped such a sensor because they are facing some of the challenges with the current measuring system. So they have still again investigating how to come up with the best version of tier-based sensors. Right. So,
Sir, this sensors
yes.
would not break.
Right.
The tattoo sensor, shirt sensor would not break.
So yes, they have. Of course, they will break. So that's why these sensors are, they have lifetimes, probably from days to week. So you have to replace the sensors because they are making in a tattoo or flexible paper formats. These sensors will not be they will not be expensive. So that's the reason they are developing such a sensors, like you can use and throw kind of things. So even if you buy in a bulk quantity, the sensor should not cost much, right? Some of the sensors that we have.
You can ask your
Sir,
questions in the end of the
Yes, please, you
talk.
can ask the questions in the.
You can ask the question end of the talk. Let them complete his talk. Okay. You can ask your questions in the question session.
Thank you,
You
sir.
can come.
So some of the sensors that we have listed before will work when your biofluid is present. So some of in the recent years, let's say if you are sitting in the AC room, you will not get sweat, right? How this wearable sensor will work in that particular time. So some engineered aspect of combining some chemical processes called iontophoresis, right? What that will do is it uses some minimal amount of current to induce sweating, right, through some kind of chemicals attached in your the sensor surface. So when you apply that particular current, small electric pulse, that will induce the sweat in your arm or in any other places that you have attached, right? These sensors you fabricate in the paper and attach to the flexible electronics through a magnetic pouch, and it can be attached on your skin like this, and it can be used for monitoring alcohol levels continuously, right? And it can also provide wireless data through your laptop or your even mobile phone. And similarly, flexible electronics has been integrated with this flexible sensors. So even it can be used for multi-analytes. Let's say that is coming out of from your sweat. You can functionalize the particular sensor surface to monitor it for various analytes, right? Small molecules to large biomolecules, and anything that you want to track, you can modify the sensor surface. And the beauty of this is a flexible electronics that they have developed by the leading researcher in the USA. So they have attached the flexible sensors and the flexible electronics for sports monitoring, for the health monitoring, right? This can also monitor, apart from this, apart from biochemical markers, it also monitors your biophysical monitors like heart rate, ECG, etc. And it can be integrated in any part of your body, forehead, wrist, and arms. And this is one of our research on wearable alcohol-based monitoring system that we have developed. So this sensor is has a unconventional. The different from others, they used three different electrodes or 3 electrode sensor array. We have used 2 electrode sensor systems, which is having anode as well as cathode. So the reaction of alcohol and and reduction of oxygen is used for monitoring this alcohol. So this is attached with a portable prototype unit, and it can be integrated in a watch format. Okay? So the basic mechanism is you use sputter or you deposit some nanomaterial. We have used some nickel nanoparticles in the sensor surface, and you attach that in the arm of your that watch where it is. So here this sensor is attached in this particular place, and all the control units on the detection displays are attached in this particular place. So this is one of the interesting research that has been published recently. So they have used inkjet printings like a normal printer that we have used. So they have used conductive ink. They have developed some conductive inks, and they have printed a multi-sensor array. So you see like how many electrodes are there. It can monitor a lot of health parameters, like it can monitor your pH, and you can temperature of the skin, and some important biomarkers, glucose, lactate, cortisol, and other amino acids that's coming out from your sweat. So the thing is, even it can attach in your watch format, like even they have miniaturized the sensor units, and it can be attached in a wrist format like this. And it will not cost much amount, because it is fully inkjet printed and it is in a flexible substrate, right? So this is a kind of research focuses going on in the recent years for developing some smart wearable sensors. So that in the previous slides we have seen biosensors on flexible patterns. Now we will see some of the examples of sensors attached on a textiles. So these textiles can be printed with some conductive electrodes using screen printing or inkjet printing technologies, and that can be used for multiplexed analysis. The fundamental challenge here is how to control that effective surface area. That is the important challenge, because when you put the sample on anywhere in the fabric, it will move all over the place. So effective controlling of the particular sensing area is very much important in this developing sensors and textiles. So we have also developed sensors for cortisol in or some other biomarkers in conducting fabrics. So the normal fabrics is made conductive using deposition with some nanoparticles, right? And then the textile fibers were attached with some specific receptors, and then can be used for monitoring your sweat cortisol level or wound healing monitors like uric acid levels, right? These kind of sensors are useful. Similarly, this flexible or this fabric-based sensors can also be attached with power harvesting system, energy harvesting system. Like this is some kind of energy harvesting system that can be attached with your body. When you go out, it will extract that energy from the solar, or the solar panel attached with this, and that can be used to power the sensors, because you need to put some kind of some minimal input to function the sensor, as well as to transfer the signal from the sensor to the monitoring device. So such a sensor attached with the energy harvesting system will improve that the current generation of the biosensor, where you need to use or you need to carry that power supply units, right? For this kind of sensor, it will reduce the usage of power supply units. And similarly, researchers have even developed sensors on a bandage so that it can monitor how the wound is curing, right? So some of the biomarkers such as during wound healing, so it can be used for monitoring the biomarkers levels. So we have seen two things now. One is point of care and wearable sensors. Now we'll see implantable sensors, right? Why we need implantable sensors when compared to wearables? If you have a wearable sensors, why you need an implantable sensor? So there are certain, for particular application, for example, when they want to monitor the brain chemistry. So what is happening inside your brain, because the cell signaling happens at a very fast rate. So that chemicals will not come, or that particular chemicals need to be monitored immediately, because once is when you want to monitor from the sweat or any other biomarkers, so there will be a chemical reactions happening, and there will be a time delay or time lag for that chemical reaction to express in your blood or sweat. So instant monitoring in your brain, these kind of implantable sensors are very much important. So this can be used for monitoring Parkinson's disease or neurological diseases, and even monitoring neurotransmitters. So in the beginning of the talk, I was talking about continuous glucose monitoring, right? This is one of the best example of implantable sensors. This sensor is attached with insulin pump, and it is having a glucose sensor. There are two things attached in this. So if your glucose level is very less, or your glucose level is very much high, then this machine will alert this insulin pump to secrete that particular type of insulin, particular concentration of the insulin to your body. So this is a kind of sensing approach. So here you need a glucose sensor implanted on your body, as well as the insulin pump attached on your body. So that's the way it can both it can monitor glucose levels, as well as inject this insulin to your body. Similarly, researchers have developed some lactate sensor for monitoring brain lactate measurement, right? So these sensors has different parts. When you look at this sensor has been attached with some enzyme layer. This
Sir,
is a
this is
bioreceptor.
about what, sir? What,
Sorry?
sir?
This is for monitoring lactate
This is about
in your
what,
brain.
sir?
This is for monitoring lactate in your body. In your
Okay,
brain.
sir.
Right. So similarly, there are other biomarkers such as dopamine, nitric oxide, and superoxide levels also produced in your brain. So this is the rat brain. They have isolated and they have implanted sensors on the brain. It can continuously monitor the superoxide generated in the body. So in such particular applications, you would need implantable sensors. But there are problems in the implantable sensors. When you put the sensors on your body or in your brain, it will cause inflammation on the particular site, right? If because as I mentioned earlier, the sensors are rigid and this our skin and our tissues are very soft. So due to the soft hard mismatch in this flexibility, it will create some kind of inflammation. So in the recent years, hydrogel materials for encapsulating the sensor has been attempted. And again, the challenge is with the calibration of the sensors. When you put the sensors on your body, there are other blood proteins will come and bind on your sensor surface. So you don't need to think of how to frequently calibrate your sensors. And when you go for implantable sensor, the electronics should be miniaturized very small so that it can be placed in the right place. And you also need to consider how to give a power or energy to the supporting circuits. And stability of the sensor is another important criteria that we have to think. So that we have seen some kind of 3 different approaches, right? Point of care, wearable and implantable sensor. So what is the next generation sensor?
Sir,
Or
your
what is
presentation
the
is
skills
not
pending?
clear. Your presentation is not clear.
So please check your
Clear,
internet
sir.
connection.
Okay, sir.
Check your network system.
So these are the next generation sensors where like you can harvest the energy from your body motion. So they have energy, different types of energy harvesters. It can be a piezoelectric where your body motions can be converted into power source, or even solar powered sensors when you go out. So different things of thermo power. So there are different types of energy harvesters can be attached on the sensor surface, and it can be monitored for different kind of markers like your bioelectronic signal, biochemical signal, optical measurement, and your environmental analysis. And it will be attached with the antenna and some low power sensors for wireless transmission. And in the recent years, nano robotics is becoming another important field when you consider the next generation sensors. So what does it will do is when it will be a kind of attached with a sensor attached with the camera. So when you swallow or when you take the medicine inside, it will capture all your this tract, digestive tract, or this gastrointestinal tract, and it will give an image to the particular surgeon or that doctor who is taking care of that particular operation. And moreover, it will automatically monitor the biochemical signals in your body and transfers to the clinicians for the future applications, right? So there are almost we have come in to the end of this particular session. So we have seen this applications of wearable sensors or point of care sensor or implantable sensors for healthcare monitoring. So there are still challenges, or there are some fundamental problems are there to convert these sensors into a particular devices. What are these? So that's where we have to put our effort or research idea to convert, right, the sensors into a useful devices. So one is uncontrolled environment. Let's say if you're wearing a sensor and particular day your temperature is high or your humidity is really high, that will have an impact on the sensor results. How to address that? So can you put more sensors so that it can also monitor the temperature and humidity and change the sensor reading accordingly? That's one area we have to look at that. And the other thing is large variability. The currently available sensors, the results are hugely variable, because if you take the results from one sensor to another sensor, the results are not matching. That's due to the fundamental issues associated with the solid electrode as well as the liquid samples. What is happening at the interface, that we have to look at it, right? And when you put wearable sensors or implantable sensors for continuous monitoring, let's say for 1 week measurement, you are generating a lot of data, right? For 24 hours, even for 1 week or 1 month. So how to assess that particular data, or how to get meaningful information from the data? And these data are really complex, so you need to come up with some kind of algorithms to simplify this particular data, right? And another area interest is security and hacking. Let's say if it is every process is automated, your sensor is giving results directly to the clinicians. How one might ensure that the results has not been hacked? Because let's say somebody can hack into your that particular results, and they send some false information to the doctor, so that so probably the doctor will give a false medicine to you. So how to address, how to improve the security and hacking in that particular system is also another thing that we have to look at it. And another important challenge is the limited power supply, because let's say implantable sensors and all, how long you can give a power supply, because if it is going inside the brain. So now the researchers have developed some kind of nano robots that can take or that can mimic some of the biological actions in your body to produce some energy, so that it can move inside the blood without using any external power supply. But the power supply of that particular robots are limited, so we have to think of how to provide a better power supply to these biosensors, right? So finally, I would like to thank CSIR and SICRI for this opportunity, and CSIR DST for funding, and I would like to thank our Professor Dr. Bansari for providing this collaborative research on this. And hopefully this talk was useful for you, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Pandyraj sir. Adira K. Nair, raise your hand, please. Any questions you ask? Adira K. Nair.
Sir, I have.
Hello. Sir, we have some set of questions from the registered link. So
Yes, sir.
one by one we can answer the questions, sir. Please.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Sir,
Hello. Yes, please go ahead.
Go ahead. Please ask your questions. Hello.
Or else you can always get my contact information from Dr. Ankap sir, and then
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can ask your questions.
Sir?
Yes,
you can ask your questions.
Sir, my question is what we can detect with tear sensor, sir?
Tear sensors.
What
Right?
we can detect from it?
Yes. So there are molecules like lactate or glucose, some cortisols, the small molecules that is present in the blood. It also comes in sweat and tears. So these sensors can be used for monitoring tear sensors, and as well as in the recent years we have submitted one proposal to the defense for monitoring some biomarkers called TNF alpha for monitoring in the tears that can be used for dry eye syndrome.
Thank you, sir. So we have some. Can quantum material be used in making next generation biosensors? Mohammed Safullah from ISER Tripadi.
So
can quantum material? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Please. So when you consider the next generation biosensors, so I would say if it is going in the implantable sensors, you need to have a sensor. You have to have a material that can attach that particular biomarker effectively, right? And it will produce the signal independently, and it can also produce need to produce some energy for the movement of that particular material. For example, the magnetic beads or magnetic particles, one kind of examples. where you can attach that particular targets on your particular bioreceptor on that particular magnetic beads that can be used, right? And even that magnetic beads can be functionalized with some particular binding units, so where it can go and attach to the cancer cells effectively, and it can illuminate or it can show where the cancer cells are for the particular sensing. So these kind of materials that you can focus for developing the next generation sensors.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, what is the most important characterization for imprinted polymer molecular print in biosensor? Nivya Sara Baby, 11th B from Kendriya Vidyalaya, Ernakulam.
So I would say this is the imprinting factor. Imprinting factor is the important criteria of this imprinted polymers. So what does that means is, see, imprinting polymer, how you develop is you put a target molecule on the polymer or on the monomer, you polymerize it and you remove the template. So it will forms a hole on the particular polymer that can be used for detection of particular analyte. So that's why you prepare MIP. So similarly, you have to prepare NIP, that's called non-imprinted polymers, without adding the target. So you have to compare the binding affinities of MIP as well as NIP to arrive at a conclusion of the imprinting factor. So imprinting factor should be high for the particular sensing application. So you need to decide or synthesize a material which is having high imprinting factor.
Thank you, sir. Next question, Teresa John Martin from Kendriya Vidyalaya, Ernakulam. Which biosensor technology will be most dominant in future and why?
So it will be a multiplexed wearable platform that can monitor both your biophysical as well as biochemical markers, right? That will be targeted for sports industries, and for clinical or research perspective, implantable biosensors with very nano dimensions like nanorobotics will be the key players in the coming years.
Thank you, sir. P. Selvaraj, Vice President from CSR Secretary Karaikudi, is asking, what are the challenges in wearable sensor? How can I find out this out of its selectivity?
Sorry, sir. How can we address selectivity?
What are the challenges in wearable sensor? How can I find out its selectivity?
So yes, as I mentioned, that the first main problem with the wearable sensor is the mismatch between our skin flexibility as well as the electrode surface. So we need to find out a better way to improve this flexibility. So one is you fabricate the sensors on a flexible substrates, or you can develop a sensors on a fabrics that can be attached on that can be used for your health monitoring in a wearable platform, right? And the other thing is how do you give a power for that particular sensing application? When you go for a wearable applications, right, you cannot carry that power source to your hand all the time. So you need to also look for some self-powered sensors attached with some solar power or some body movement capturing systems. That is a thing that you can look at for. And regarding the selectivity, yes, you can attach some kind of enzymes or antibodies so that it will improve the selectivity of the detection. For example, if you want to monitor the small molecules such as lactate and glucose, you can put some enzymes, or if you want to monitor steroid hormones like cortisol, you can put antibodies, or you can add DNAs. Like in the recent year, aptamers are coming up and they have a lot of stability. So you can also think of putting any of these for improving the selectivity.
Thank you, sir. The next question is Aditi Chaudhary from 12th standard, KV Korapat. How are these blended with biological as well as physiochemical factor for an analytical device?
Sorry, sir?
how are these blended with biological as well as physiochemical factors for an analytical device?
So as I mentioned, I'm not sure what exactly the question is.
How are these blended with biological as well as physiochemical factors
Blended.
for an blended?
Right. So you're saying that it can be integrated, or how it can be used for
Yeah, yeah.
correlating others. So
Yes.
as I mentioned, like for example, the biochemical such as lactate or cortisol. For example, you take a cortisol that is correlated to stress. So the biophysical monitors like a heartbeat monitoring, that can be used to analyze a particular person whether he is stressed or not based on his heartbeat levels. So similarly, the biochemical sensor like a cortisol, if you monitor, that can be used to correlate that heartbeat monitoring as well as what do you call this stress level, both biophysically as well as biochemically. Same thing with the lactate, that is used for monitoring the threshold of athletes. So where you can monitor the heartbeat as well as your sweat lactate for the correlation.
Thank you, sir. The last questions. Anubhava from Kendriya Vidyalaya, Kalamancheri, 12th standard. She is asking, it is possible to use biosensor to track depression in people. Any
Yes.
depression? Yeah.
This depression is now, as I mentioned, in the year 2017, this Nobel Prize has been awarded for sleep pattern monitoring, where the day-night changes, how it affects the sleep pattern and all. Even depression is also affects the sleep pattern. So some of the biochemical markers such as cortisol and other steroid hormones will elevate or in your blood or saliva or your sweat or in your urine samples during stressed conditions. So when you put a sensors on your body to monitor this cortisol levels, and persons in a depressed level can be tracked easily, because this depression is correlated to these cortisol levels.
Thank you, sir. So now we are ending this session. Thank you all the participants, and thank you Dr. M. Pandyaraj. So on next Monday we have another session with for all the participants, and thank you Dr. M. Pandyaraj. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for the
Sir,
presentation.
Thank you, sir.
sir.